What's up, U.S. history people? This is Mr. Norris.
And Mr. Lawrence.
And we're going to do video number 5 in the Constitution for you today. This one deals with federalism, a very important topic throughout U.S. history. So let's start off with federalism. What exactly is it? So please write down this definition. It is the division of government into federal or national and state/local levels. And each government has specific powers. So what exactly are these specific powers?
So first of all, is a term that you do need to know is reserved powers. And these are powers given to states. So they are powers that are reserved within the Constitution, technically not in the Constitution, that states have the right to make decisions on. And we also have delegated powers, which are powers that are specifically spelled out within the Constitution that are given to possibly states and the federal government. And concurrent powers, which are shared. These are both state and federal powers. Mr. Norris, do you know one very important concurrent power?
Taxing, the ability to tax.
All right. So in just a few minutes, we're going to go through and give you a list of reserved, delegated, and concurrent powers.
So what I like to do is to tell students to think of this like a school, that there are certain powers that are given to principals and certain powers that are given exclusively to teachers and certain powers that are given to both. So you don't need to write this down in your packet, but think about things that principals can do. Only principals can suspend students, and only principals can hire teachers. Now, jumping over to teacher powers or reserved powers, teachers are the only ones that can assign homework and give grades. You don't get a grade from a principal. And concurrent powers, or powers that are shared between the two, both teachers and principals can assign detention, and both can call parents whether to give good news or bad news. So try to think of this, that the principals are like the federal government and teachers are like the state government. So think of each classroom as an own individual state within the building of the high school.
All right, so Mr. Norris has provided us a great example that hopefully we can refer to the differences between national powers, state powers within our own daily lives. Also very important to understand concurrent powers. So I'm going to quickly go through some of these powers with you. So looking on the left-hand side, we have national powers. So according to the Constitution, the federal government does have the ability and responsibility to make treaties with foreign nations. Also, they have the ability and power to create and implement import taxes. Mr. Norris, do you remember what an import is?
An import is a good coming from another country.
That's correct.
And what's the name of an import tax? What do we call that in U.S. history?
So the fancy word, we refer to it as a tariff. So understand that tariff is a tax on imports.
Do you know a guy who liked tariffs, Mr. Lawrence?
Henry Clay.
Henry Clay loved tariffs. We'll talk about why later.
Absolutely. So the third one you need to know is interstate commerce. The national government has the ability to regulate this. So very important to understand the term interstate. Mr. Norris, do you remember?
Interstate means involving two or more states. So when I drive from New York to Ohio, I take the interstate highway because I'm crossing multiple states.
That's correct. And it is the federal government's responsibility to regulate that trade or economic issues between those states. Okay, fourth on our list is the ability to declare war. And this specifically falls to Congress, and then the president is to carry out that war.
Quick recap. Try to remember, we did this the very first day of school or second day of school. When was the last official time that Congress declared war? See if you can remember. We'll talk about it in class.
Number 5 is coin money. So it only falls to the federal government to be able to coin money. We studied earlier in the year that things like the Articles of Confederation allowed for states to coin their individual money, and the economy really couldn't prosper that way. It's like going from Buffalo, New York to Canada. You need to change that money. So it's one more step within the economic process that slows the growth of the economy down. With the new Constitution, the federal government streamlines it and coins all the money for everyone. Also, it has the ability to punish counterfeiters. Do you know whose responsibility that is?
Yes, it is the Secret Service. It was established to go after counterfeiters.
That's right. So they actually work for the Treasury Department also, protecting the president. So we also have to understand the idea of a standardized weight and measure falls to the Congress and the national government as well, to understand a foot is a foot, whether you're in Buffalo or in San Diego. 8 is to naturalize.
Did you mention San Diego because they just beat the Bills? Is that why you did that, Mr. Lawrence?
Unfortunately, yes, they're on my mind. Naturalizing citizens is also another national power to determine what makes a U.S. citizen. Creating post offices.
You know, I was just at the post office the other day, the one at the airport, and there was a plaque there that said this post office was commemorated by President George H.W. Bush in 1991. So every single post office is created by the national government. Look for a plaque at your local post office the next time you're there. Does anyone go to the post office still?
Not really, but I'm going to go there right now.
And just go check it out.
Yep.
Let us know.
I'll see you later. All right, before I go, though, don't forget number 10 is to raise a standing army as well. Number 11, grant copyrights. So again, the idea of having patents falls through the federal government. Make sure no one steals your idea.
Okay, so over to state powers right now I will cover as Mr. Lawrence is at the post office. Number 1 is licensing professionals. So we both are certified teachers in New York State. If we want to work in another state, we would have to fall under the licensing requirements for that state. Also, education is a state power. So New York State, we have Regents exams that you have to take, and you will be taking one at the end of this year in U.S. history. Other states do not require Regents exams. It depends on each state. States also regulate the sale of alcohol. Even though all states have the age requirement of 21, it is still a state issue, and we'll talk about why in class they're all 21. They can also regulate trade within a state. That is called intra, I-N-T-R-A, not to be confused with inter, which is trade between 2 or more states. So if I own a business and I sell ice cream in both Buffalo, New York, and Rochester, and I'm shipping my ice cream from Buffalo to Rochester, that is New York State that would be able to regulate or control that. And also, marriage and divorce is a state issue as well, although I have a sneaky feeling that the Supreme Court might get involved when we're talking about issues such as gay marriage. And regulate gambling, that is up to the states. So different states, in Las Vegas, for example, you can gamble. There are casinos. In New York State, you can only gamble at Indian reservation casinos. All right, we're going to jump over to concurrent powers. Mr. Lawrence, welcome back. Did you see the plaque?
I did, yeah. So it was pretty interesting. So now I'm going to try and hit as many post offices as possible to look for these cool plaques.
We should have a running tally and see how many we could get.
We should. All right, so let's talk concurrent powers. Collecting taxes is the most significant power between national and state governments. We see that also in local governments like counties and municipalities collect taxes as well.
So both state and national powers, both the state government and national government can enforce laws as well. So the FBI helps enforce federal laws, and New York State Police or Cheektowaga Police enforce state and local laws.
Traffic regulations, things like road and bridge construction, also can fall under both. Some can be helped and supported by the federal government. Other projects can be taken on by state or local municipalities as well. Okay,
so there is the Venn diagram of delegated or national powers, reserved or state powers, and concurrent or shared powers. Definitely be able to identify several examples of each one of those. So we'll finish up with some questions here, Federalism Questions in your packet. Number 1, why did the founders not centralize powers of government in the national government? So in other words, why did the founders of the Constitution, why did they create this system of federalism? Keep in mind, the Constitution is created in 1789, only 13 years before the U.S. declared independence. So there's this fear of having a strong central government like the British. They want to avoid British control, and also there's so much land that local government could better meet the needs of those people.
All right, so the second question we have to answer is, why did the founders select very specific duties to assign the national government? So similar to what Mr. Norris answered earlier, is they didn't want to see that power of the federal government expand on its own or become too engaged in the daily lives of Americans. This idea or this philosophy of limited government was very important to the founders early on.
Number 3, why did the founders allow both the national and state governments to share powers of taxation? And again, there's this feared power. This is a big idea with federalism, the idea of the central government having too much power, but also both the federal and state government needs money. There's different projects and different responsibilities that cost money. So the ability for both to tax allows them to raise money.
All right, and finally, number 4 asks, why did the founders deny certain powers to the national government, state government, and or both? So what we need to know is, again, this belief in limited government. And as we've kind of discussed through these 4 questions, there's this overriding sense of fear. And Mr. Norris, is fear, do you think, a motivating factor for people at times?
Without question, yes.
So do you think this was a motivating factor for our founders?
Yes, they were definitely afraid of having the government resemble the British government they just broke away from.
But they did have to find that balance between a strong central government and less government control. As a result, we studied the Articles of Confederation that was too weak, but they also wanted to avoid creating a constitution that was going to be too strong. So it was a very, very delicate balancing act the founders had to play.
Definitely looking for that balance. All right, guys, that is it for video number 5. Please turn to your video response sheet portion of your packet. And for number 5, answer the following question. Why was federalism created? And please, as always, make sure this is at least 3 sentences long.
And Mr. Norris, what are we learning to write like?
Like historians.
So keep it up, folks. Make sure you can write at least 3 sentences. If you can do more, that's even preferred.
More is better, yes. In this case, more is better. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day. And check out your local post office as well.